Good day everyone! Welcome again dito sa klase natin sa numerical solution to CA problem CA323. So for today, we are going to discuss the continuation of our Unit 5, which is all about curve fitting and interpolation. So this will be the last part of our video discussion about this unit. So ang natitirang topic na lang dito is the cubic interpolation. So let's start discussing cubic spline interpolation. So a cubic spline is a type of spline interpolation where every curve connecting two consecutive points is a cubic function. So cubic function siya since yung exponents niya dito is 3 na. So for data with n plus 1 pairs of points, n spline functions are needed. These cubic spline are, so we have y is equal to a sub 1 x cubed plus b sub 1 x squared plus c sub 1 x plus d sub 1, wherein our x here must be greater than x sub o but less than x sub 1, and then we have y is equal to a sub 2 x cubed plus b sub 2 x squared plus c sub 2x plus d sub 2, wherein our x here must be greater than x sub 1 but less than x sub 2. And then we also have y is equal to a sub n x cubed plus b sub n x squared plus c sub n x plus d sub n, wherein our x for this equation must be greater than x sub n minus 1 and must be less than x sub n. So there are 4 unknown coefficients in every cubic spline. So ito yung a sub I, b sub I, c sub I, and d sub I. Thus, there is a need of 4 n linear equations. So to solve for these unknowns, these linear equations are derived in the following steps. So steps in derivation of linear equation in cubic spline. So step 1 is that all given points are parts of the spline function. So there is a total of 2n linear equations derived on this step. So we have 2n. Next is that the first derivative of two splines sharing an intermediate point are equal. So there is a total of n minus 1 linear equation derived on this step. So that is n minus 1. And third, the second derivative of two splines sharing an intermediate points are equal. So there is a total of n minus 1 linear equations derived on this step. So again, that is n minus 1. The second derivative of the first and last spline function is assumed to be 0. So there is a total of 2 linear equations derived on this step. So taking the sum of this one, so we have 4n. So for us to understand this cubic spline interpolation, let's have this example. So sample problem number 1. So we have this table. So sabi dito, using a cubic spline interpolation, determine the value of f of 3 for a given set of data shown below. So the data given here is the same with the one we use in quadratic spline interpolation. So we have 1, 6, 4, negative 12, 6, 8, 5, and negative 17. So again, before tayo mag-start, kailangan yung ating x sub n must be arranged in ascending order. So, rearrange lang natin yan. So we have 1, 4, 5, 6, and then 6, negative 12, negative 17, 8. So, dito lang class magbabago sa x sub n, and then ka-pair niya dapat to pag nagbago ng ayos. So, yung 1 natin dito, that is x sub o, yung 4 natin as x sub 1, 5 as x sub 2, 6 as x sub 3. And then, our 6 as y sub o or f of x sub o. Yung negative 12 naman, that is y sub 1 or f of x sub 1. Negative 17 natin is y sub 2 or f of x sub 2. And then yung 8 naman natin, that is y sub 3 or f of x sub 3. So, i-graph lang natin itong mga data natin. So, for point O, so that is 1, 6. Point 1, that is 4, negative 12. Point 2, that is 5, negative 17. And then point 3, that is 6 and 8. So, connecting these 4 points, magkakaroon tayo ng tatlong equation. So that is f of 1 of x, f of 2 of x, and f of 3 of x. So since cubic spline interpolation tayo, so we will be using this equation for f of 1 of x, f of 2 of x, and then f of 3 of x. While considering yung ating x for each function, masatisfy this one. So mula dito, class, so we have unknowns natin will be 12. Since meron tayong tatlo na equation. So we have 4 multiplied by 3. So ang unknowns natin ay 12. So the given has 4 sets of points. Thus, there is a need of n is equal to 4 minus 1 is equal to 3 cubic function to perform interpolation. So these three functions are, so ito yung equation na na-generate nung pinag-connect natin yung pinag-connect natin yung apat na data points. So for f of 1 of x, we have a sub 1 x cubed plus b sub 1 x squared plus c sub 1 x plus d sub 1, wherein our x must be greater than 1 but less than 4. And then for f of 2 of x, so that is equal to a sub 2 x cubed plus b sub 2 x squared plus c sub 2 x plus d sub 2, wherein our x here must be greater than 4 but less than 5. And then for f of 3 of x, so we have a sub 3x cubed plus b sub 3x squared plus c sub 3x plus d sub 3, wherein our x here must be greater than 5 but less than 6. So the system has 4n is equals to 4 multiplied by 3, so that is 12 number of unknowns. Thus, there is a need of 12 linear equations to solve these unknowns. So for our step 1, all given points are parts of the spline function. So we have 2n is equal to 2 multiplied by 3, that is equal to 6 linear equations. So for step 1, kailangan makagawa tayo ng 6 na linear equations. So the point 1, 6, our first data points, is only part of the first cubic spline only. Thus, f of 1 of x is equal to a sub 1x cubed plus b sub 1x squared plus c sub 1x plus d sub 1. So we have 6 is equal to a sub 1. Substitute lang natin yung value ng 1 natin dito. So we have a sub 1 multiplied by 1 cubed plus b sub 1 multiplied by 1 squared plus c sub 1 multiplied by 1 plus d sub 1. So simplifying this one, we have a sub 1 plus b sub 1 plus c sub 1 plus d sub 1 is equal to 6. So next, doon naman na tayo sa 4, negative 12. So the point 4, negative 12 is part of the first and second cubic spline. Thus, f of 1 of x is equal to a sub 1x cubed plus b sub 1x squared plus c sub 1x plus d sub 1. So substitute lang natin yung ating negative 12 as our f of 1 of x. So that is ito, negative 12, and then substitute natin yung ating value ng x sa lahat ng x dito. So we have a sub 1, 4 cubed plus b sub 1, 4 squared plus c sub 1, 4 plus d sub 1. And then simplifying this one class, so we have 64a sub 1 plus 16b sub 1 plus 4c sub 1 plus d sub 1 is equal to negative 12. So for our second cubic spline, so we have f sub 2x is equal to a sub 2x cubed plus b sub 2x squared plus c sub 2x plus d sub 2. So substituting our f of 2x here, so that is negative 12. And then yung x natin dito, so that is 4. So we have negative 12 is equal to a sub 2, 4 cubed plus b sub 2, 4 squared plus c sub 2, 4 plus d sub 2. And then simplifying this one, so we have 64a sub 2 plus 16b sub 2 plus 4c sub 2 plus d sub 2 is equal to negative 12. And then for point B, for point ano na tayo, point 5, negative 17. so that this point is part of the second and third cubic spline. Thus, we have f of 2 of x, this the equation for f of 2x, and then the equation of f of 3x. So from here, substitute lang natin yung negative 17 for f of 2x and f of 3x. And then substitute lang natin itong 5 sa lahat ng x for this equation and for this equation. And then simplifying this class, so we have 125 a sub 2 plus 25 b sub 2 plus 5 c sub 2 plus d sub 2 is equal to negative 17. And then for f of 3x, simplifying this one, so we have 125 a sub 3 plus 25 b sub 3 plus 5 c sub 3 plus d sub 3 is equal to negative 17. And for our last point, so we have 6, 8. So this is only part of the third cubic spline only. Thus, we have f of 3x is equal to a sub 3x cubed plus b sub 3x squared plus c sub 3x plus d sub 3. So we have 8 is equal to a sub 3 multiplied by 6 cube plus b sub 3 6 squared plus c sub 3 6 plus d sub 3. And simplifying this one, so we have 216 a sub 3 plus 36 b sub 3 plus 6 c sub 3 plus d sub 3 is equal to 8. So for step 1 class, ang na-generate natin na linear equation is 6. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So doon na tayo sa step 2. So for step 2, the first derivative of two splines sharing an intermediate point are equal. So ano ba yung intermediate point natin dito? So we have ito, 1 and 2. So the point 1 and point 2 with data points 4, negative 12, and then 5, negative 17. So the first derivative of the cubic spline of each function are, so for our first cubic spline, pagka kinuha natin first derivative na to, so we have 3a sub 1x squared plus 2 b sub 1x plus c sub 1. And then for the second cubic spline, we have 3a sub 2x squared plus 2b sub 2x plus c sub 2. And then for our third cubic spline, so we have 3a sub 3x squared plus 2b sub 3x plus c sub 3. So mula dito class, ang kailangan lang natin gawin is i-equate sila and then makakakuha tayo ng dalawang equation. So, ito na nga yun. So, the first derivative of two splines sharing an intermediate points are equal. So, we have n minus 1 is equal to 3 minus 1. So, that is 2 equations. So, we will consider point 4, negative 12, 5, and negative 17 dahil sila yung intermediate points. So, the first interior point is for negative 12, and the first and second cubic splines are connected to it. So, equating the first derivative of this cubic spline and substituting x is equal to 4. So, kailangan lang daw natin i-equate yung first and cubic spline. So, we have 3a sub 1x squared plus 2b sub 1x plus c sub 1 is equal to 3a sub 2x squared plus 2b sub 2x plus c sub 2. And then, substitute lang natin dito yung value ng ating x, which is 4. So, we have 3a sub 1, 4 squared plus 2b sub 1, 4 plus c sub 1 is equal to 3a sub 2, 4 squared plus 2b sub 2, 4 plus c sub 2. And then, simplifying this one, so we have 48a sub 1 plus 8b sub 1 plus c sub 1 minus 48a sub 2 minus 8b sub 2 minus c sub 2. So, that is equal to 0. Equate lang natin siya sa 0. So, next na intermediate point natin. So, that is 5, negative 17. So, the other interior point is 5, negative 17. And the second and the third cubic spline are connected to it. So, equating the first derivative of this cubic spline and substituting x is equal to 5. So we have 3a sub 2x squared plus 2b sub 2x plus c sub 2 is equal to 3a sub 3x squared plus 2b sub 3x plus c sub 3. So substituting the value of our x, which is 5, so we have 3a sub 2, 5 squared plus 2b sub 2 multiplied by 5 plus c sub 2, that equal to 3a sub 3, 5 squared plus 2b sub 3 multiplied by 5 plus c sub 3. So simplifying this one, equate lang natin sa 0. So we have 75a2 plus 10b sub 2 plus c sub 2 minus 75a sub 3 minus 10b sub 3 minus c sub 3. So nakakakuha tayo ulit ng dalawa pang equation. So next step, the second derivative of 2 spline is sharing an intermediate point are equal. So we have n minus 1 again dito. So that is 3 minus 1. Makakakuha tayo ulit ng dalawa pang equation. Kaso ang gagamitin na natin is the second derivative of our cubic spline. So ito, kanina nakuha na natin to for first derivative. So take lang natin yung second derivative nito. So we have 6a sub 1 x plus 2b sub 1. So, ito yung derivative na to, class. So, mula sa 3a sub 1x squared plus 2b sub 1x plus c sub 1. So, magiging 6a sub 1x plus 2b sub 1 na lang siya for second derivative. So, for our second cubic spline, so mula sa 3a sub 2x squared plus 2b sub 2x plus c sub 2. So, taking the second derivative of this one, so we have 6a sub 2x plus 2b sub 2. And for our third spline, ang first derivative niya is 3a sub 3x squared plus 2b sub 3x plus c sub 2. So, taking the second derivative of this one, so we have 6a sub 3x plus 2b sub 3. So, ang kailangan lang natin gawin is kagaya nung ating step 2. So, equate lang natin sila para makakuha tayo ng dalawa pang equations. So, the second derivative of 2 splines sharing an intermediate point are equal. So, that is n minus 1 is equal to 3 minus 1. So, that is 2 linear equation again. So, ano ba yung intermediate points natin dito? So, again, yun lang dun ulit. So, we have 4, negative 12, 5, and negative 17. So, the first interior point is 4, negative 12, and the first and second cubic splines are connected to it. So, siya yung point na nagko-connect ng first and second cubic spline. So, kailangan natin i-equate yung first derivative of this second to. So, equating the second derivative of this cubic spline and substituting x is equal to 4. So, that is 6a sub 1x plus 2b sub 1 is equal to 6a sub 2x plus 2b sub 2. And substituting our value of x here, so we have 6a sub 1 multiplied by 4 plus 2b sub 1 is equal to 6a sub 2 multiplied by 4 plus 2b sub 2. And then equating this one, simplifying, and then equating it to 0. So we have 24a sub 1 plus 2b sub 1 minus 24a sub 2 minus 2b sub 2. So, doon na tayo sa pangalawang point, interior point. So, the other interior point is 5, negative 17, and the second and third cubic splines are connected to it. So, ang nagko-connect para doon sa second and third na cubic spline natin is yung point 5, negative 17. So, equating the second, so second to equating the second derivative of these cubic splines and substituting x is equal to 5. So, we have 6a sub 2x plus 2b sub 2 is equal to 6a sub 3x plus 2b sub 3. And then, substituting the value of our x here, which is 5. So, we have 6a sub 2 multiplied by 5 plus 2b sub 2 is equal to 6a sub 3 multiplied by 5 plus 2b sub 3. And then, simplifying this one and equating it to 0. So, we have 30a sub 2 plus 2b sub 2 minus 30a sub 3 minus 2b sub 3. So, step 4 na tayo. So, the second derivative of the first. So, first and last lang tayo dito. First and last function is assumed to be 0. So, from here, 2 equations yung makukuha natin. So, for the first point, we have 1, 6.16, diba? So, equating the second derivative of the first cubic spline to. into 0. So we have 6a sub 1 plus 2b sub 1 is equal to 0. And then substituting the value of our x, which is 1. So we have 6a sub 1 multiplied by 1 plus 2b sub 1, so equal to 0. So we have our 11th equation, so that is 6a sub 1 plus 2b sub 1 is equal to 0. So for the other endpoint, so ito yung last function natin considering our last data points. So equating the second derivative of the third cubic spline into 0, so we have 6a sub 3 plus 2b sub 3 is equal to 0. And then substituting the value of x, which is 6, so we have 6a cube, 6a sub 3 multiplied by 6 plus 2b sub 3 is equal to 0. So that is equal to 36a sub 3 plus 2b sub 3 is equal to 0. So this will be our 11th equation, and this will be the 12th equation. So ito yung summary ng lahat ng equation na na-generate natin. So for a sub 1, we have, so for equation 1, we have a sub 1 plus b sub 1 plus c sub 1 plus d sub 1 is equal to 6. For equation 2, we have 64 a sub 1 plus 16b sub 1 plus 4c sub 1 plus d sub 1 is equal to negative 12. For equation 3, so and so on, and so on. And then, dito class, since meron tayong 12 equations, so possible makapag-solve tayo ng 12 unknowns. So, dito, nakapag-solve na ako kaagad. So, nasa sa inyo yun class kung ano yung pwede nyong gamitin. So, dito, pwedeng by elimination, kaso mahaba, pero possible din naman. And then po, pwede din naman yung Excel. So, for solving the value of a sub 1, b sub 1, c sub 1 to d sub 3 using Excel, mag-share lang ako ng YouTube video. So, may link lang ako na ibibigay. So, pwede nyo yung sundan para ma-solve nyo ito. So, dito class, ang nakuha natin na a sub 1 is negative 0.28, b sub 1 is 0.84, c sub 1 is negative 4.32, d sub 1 is 9.76, a sub 2 is 8.55, b sub 2 is negative 105.10, c sub 2 is 419.42, d sub 2 is negative 555.23, a sub 3 is negative 7.71, b sub 3 is 138.77, c sub 3 is equal to negative 799.94, and d sub 3 as 1,477.03. So, the 3 cubic splines are, so ito yung class, ang 3 cubic spline natin. So, ang kailangan lang natin gawin is, since meron na tayong value ng a sub 1 to d sub 3, so substitute lang natin siya dito. So, for f of 1 of x, substitute lang lahat natin ng value ng a sub 1 to d sub 1. For f of 2 of x, so substitute lang natin yung a sub 2 to d sub 2. So, this one. And for f of 3 of x, we'll be using this table. Substitute lang natin yung a sub 3 to d sub 3. So, dun sa tanong sa atin, to solve for the value of f of 3, so, saan ba mag-fall yung 3 natin na masasatisfy itong mga ito? So, we'll be using this f of 1 of x. Kasi, yung 3 natin is greater than 1 but less than 4. So, pagka ito, dito natin nilagay yung 3. So, yung 3 ba natin is greater than 4? So, hindi naman. So, hindi ito kasali. And then, para sa f of 3 of x, pag sinubstitute natin dito yung 3 ba natin is greater than 5. So, hindi naman. So, we'll be using this f of 1 of x. Since 3 is in between 1 and 4. So, for f of 1 of 3, we will use this one. So, that is negative 0.28x cubed plus 0.84x squared minus 4.32x plus 9.76. And then, substituting the value of x here, so we have negative 0.28 3 cubed plus 0.84 3 squared minus 4.32 multiplied by 3 plus 9.76. So, solving this one, we have f of 3 is equal to negative 3.2. So, ang layo niya dun sa may quadratic spline interpolation. Kasi dun sa quadratic spline interpolation, ang answer natin is negative 6. So, sabi nga natin, mas exact itong cubic spline interpolation. So, that is negative 3.2. And then, i-graph lang natin siya. So, using cubic spline interpolation, the value of f of 3 is equal to negative 3.2. So, ito yung magiging itsura ng ating graph considering yung ating f of 3 which is equal to negative 3.2. So, this is the end of our discussion for Unit 5. Thank you, class, for listening and stay safe. Bye.